6:32. So let me take a roll call. Aaron, even though I saw you.
Here.
Amy?
I'm here, sorry. I'm just leaving it off.
Rick? Here. Thank you. Steve said he could not make it. Tom? Is Tom out there?
Yep, Tom's here.
Thank you. Peter, I saw you. Mike?
I'm here.
Paula?
Here.
Walter? And is Sonia there?
I'm here.
Thank you. All right, Mike, I guess we have schools, police, fire.
Schools, police, fire, communications, library. Data. Okay. And Joe Baeta is on, I believe. To present the schools.
All right, is that who we want to go first?
Yep. Is Joe, if Joe's ready.
I'm present. Yep,
Okay.
I'm present. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry that this is, that we're still dealing with C-19 and some social unrest in our country and having to do these things remotely. Good evening to all. Members of the committee are also here, as well as members of our team, my team, to address two topics, and I'll deal with the budget first, and then Mike, depending on protocol, with food services as well, if you so choose. We forwarded an updated budget. As you remember, we had a budget booklet that had significant amount of detail. In that detail of the new budget, that was at that point an 8% request. You'll also see, starting on page 5, details, notes for every single category where there's been some type of a change, including changes that you recommended last year, which was clarity to the number of positions and or moving positions into the area where they should be, but they're not necessarily new positions in that contract. And that was to try to be clear. So we've added a notes section to each of that. And of course, all of that work be gone because COVID hit and everything went up in the air. So what we've been doing is we've been trying to work towards a budget that Mike and I discussed of a 2.5% increase, which is $748,941. I cut from our original proposed budget $1,646,279, of which a couple of things stick out. Number one is anything to do with general ed and new positions that have been eliminated, including an ESL position, 0.2 music, 0.2 American Sign Language, floating nurse and library. The dean of students position is being moved to a dual athletic director / dean of students with no increase in salary at this time. The reduction in athletic fees that were being proposed are no longer taking place. The reduction in transportation fees that were being recommended are no longer taking place. And the utilization of retirement savings, $110,000, is no longer taking place. In order for us to get to the 941 number, we took the athletic director's job in the dean and made it into one position that has no salary increase. And then the director of people personnel, Gene Sullivan, is leaving to become the executive director of the BICO Collaborative after a number of years with us. And the director of counseling, SEL, that's been consolidated into the director of pupil personnel services. We named that as Vinnie Searcy at the school committee meeting last Thursday, and we've backed the coordinator of special ed position. That brings us savings In that line item of about 25,000, a dean savings of about 85,000 for a total consolidation of administrative position savings of $125,000. Now, all of this is under the idea that we are trying to open for September 2020. Right now, we do not have any specific details from the Commonwealth, including after the 4 phases that were specifically noted today by the governor. The governor did not provide details about September, and it's my understanding that that is 4 to 5 weeks out from us receiving it. If that's true, in Norton, what we're doing is on that 748, 941, I will have to cut a few classroom positions, and I will target specifically class size as the number one target. In other words, areas where there are already high class size, I'll stay away from. Mike and I also have an understanding that we have no idea what Chapter 70 in the fall is going to look like, and we will deal with it in the fall because that's the best approach. The idea of creating hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of layoffs to the town, to me, doesn't benefit us on the school side or the town side, in my opinion. But we also know that the October town meeting, that sometimes we ask for money and get money, and I know that this administration was the 22 years, whatever it is, have been going back for money in October. We also recognize, I think both on the town side and the school side, and I'll defer to Mike, that we have no idea what this budget could look like in October. We do not see a state budget coming any earlier than mid to late August. We might start to hear some numbers in late July, early August, but right now with the Chapter 70, no one's talking about cutting that, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. I think there's a lot of hope for the feds to come through in some way, shape, or form, but don't forget that the Student Opportunity Act for the town of Norton was a whopping $72,000 increase. That will not pay for the recommended PPEs that we heard about last week. They are looking at us purchasing a minimum of 3 months of PPEs for every student and every staff member for the fall. Will that come through? In other words, will that be the requirement? They're looking at options for the fall. All of them have significant financial obligations, to be quite honest. So those will be burdens that will be placed at the local level. The second part that goes with that is we're still negotiating with the teachers union and the paraprofessionals. I had a brief meeting with them today. We'll be sending that information to the subcommittee of the school committee, who will then review the potential for closure on that issue, which will then solidify our contract. And it's done before the 15th of June, would allow for me to not have to lay off a ton of folks. The other part is we've announced a steering committee for the fall. That committee is being named this week. And that committee's work is to then break up into 3 subcommittees. One committee will be led by me on what's called a staggered opening, week on, week off, AM, PM. Good luck to parents is my comment on that. The remote learning, which we know we have to do better, so it will be the next level of remote learning. And then third, a hybrid model, and a hybrid could actually work in all 3, which is more of students being online, not remote, but actual online teaching and learning. That would be taking place. That could be part of a staggered. One of the examples that was given the other day was that we could have half of a classroom in this week, and then next week the other half. So that means I'm going to have to provide something during the week that they're not here. So we're looking at that as a blended option. The positive today, so that you know, was that the governor did announce that the child care centers are going to open in phase 2. I will tell you, working with Champions, our after-school, before and after-school program, which parents pay for, they've already been told that the ratio can be no greater than 9 to 1. That's 9 children to 1 adult. It's typically 13. That has a cost to the parents, if that was to be one of the programs that we utilize. And then lastly will be how much money is actually back at the end of the year. We'll know more about that in June, mid-June. I think you know where I stand on the 112 budget, but I can talk about that too if you'd like. And currently the non-union personnel have deferred their salaries until a potential later date negotiation with the school committee. But those folks and myself and all administrators are taking a 0 increase as of July 1st. We'll wait to see what this budget really looks like and then take a look and see if there's anything for us. That's the overall budget. I think it's a reasonable budget for these days, considering Mike's recommending the utilization of some stabilization. Hopefully there is some luck in the future as well, not only with things like free cash, but the federal government. Mike and I have been spending every week talking about the CARES Act. There's $1.7 million there. Myself, James, Matt, and Mike have met to discuss it. I think we're meeting, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, this week to try to finalize those purchases and items that we can forward to the CARES Municipal Act that the town won't have to pay for.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay, well, here we go. I guess I have a meeting with you tomorrow. And the reason for that is to utilize those funds that can come from the feds to pay for those things that would be reasonable within the guidelines. Some of our one-to-one purchases with technology and software. Mike and I have talked about the upgrades with the laptops that personnel need, not only on his side, but my side, especially if we're doing this. And it's an opportunity for us to make those purchases and if they're allowed. And then the second part of it is the state IT bond looks like it's going to be predominantly towards public safety, police and fire, and town hall. But I'm also starting to hear that they're trying to take care of areas of the state where technology is an issue. So I don't know if that bill will be changed as part of the reauthorization of the entire budget, but that could be beneficial to not only the town of Warren, but also to the school side as well. I guess as I say at my school committee meetings, questions, concerns, ideas, problems, complaints, I'll take them if you have.
So, just so I can verify whether I heard it correctly or not, does this $748,000 increase to your budget, or the budget request, does that still include layoffs, or at this point, no?
That still includes layoffs, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, well, at this time, Bill, to be very specific, without saying a number, because I haven't finalized it with the school committee and then with the staff, we prefer to tell the staff before we have a public notice. Let me just give you the ballpark of somewhere in the vicinity of 2 to 5, but less than 5. So it's not huge, and it's not huge because we've consolidated other areas. I mean, I'm taking a significant number of hits in contract services that I have for things that we normally do. But I'm also contemplating that these numbers could get worse before they get better. Specifically, I think I'm more concerned than most about FY22 than I am about the fall. There could be something in the fall as well. But I think the powers that be, specifically the FinCom and Mike and the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, can probably take a look at numbers and crunch some numbers that could get us through the year, even if there's some hurt in the fall. The biggest impact is always going to be on my side, because it means if I have to cut staff in the fall, I have to reallocate students or positions or authority or responsibility stuff with folks. And as some people know, it's not my first rodeo doing that. I've done it a couple of times, not only in my previous job, but also as a school committee member.
Yep. All right, does anybody on FinCom have questions?
And Bill, as you're awaiting folks, I'm happy to take questions. We will continue to release, like we've done all the other years, administrative salaries, the copies of the teachers' union contract and all that. I'm just trying to get you some real numbers, but we'll share those with you in the next few days as well. We started doing that last year. It became a question about how much does Joe Byetta make and how the administrator makes. So we'll release all of that so you can have it as part of your public information. I just, to be quite honest, didn't have time to get to it.
That's fine. Thank you. So if no one else has questions at this very second, so how are not that you can get into much detail, but how are the negotiations with the teachers union going in this type of environment?
Yeah, so the school committee must always bargain in good faith, regardless if the town has $1 billion or it has negative $1 billion. I mean, that's the process. So we started a joint effort requested by the Norton Teachers Association, which now also represents the 55 paraprofessionals. So they're now almost 300 people together. So they're broken up into currently still 2 contracts, but I want to say a little over a year ago, there was a discussion by the Teachers Association on behalf of both teachers and paras to consolidate into one group, and we began the process of working on taking 2 contracts and making it one. And we've been working on that in a positive way. There were hiccups, as I call them, along the way, disagreements, and so on. Prior to this hitting, there had been financial exchanges by both sides. I think both sides were far apart, but yet recognized that it was in negotiations. And then this is hit. And I think the effort by the association has really been one of trying to find a way to take care of its membership, but at the same time, not see the school department being devastated by layoffs and so on and so forth. So both sides continue to bargain in good faith. What we have agreed on is that all of those other minutia items, which was pages upon pages of trying to come to an agreement, because remember, you're taking both professional employees, but one under certain state rules and one considered an hourly federal employee, a paraprofessional. And how do those things come together in terms of not the healthcare benefits, because that's on the town side of responsibility, but hourly wages, vacation times, coming in, staying late, coming in after hours. Those are all issues that are different from a teacher's salary, which is has hours, but is based on a salary that's paid out over 26 payments versus a every 2-week employee like a paraprofessional that is based on a 32.5-hour week schedule. So trying to bring all of those things together, the number of sick days, should it be 10, should it be 12, should it be 15, should it be, all of that stuff was being looked at in great detail by both sides. After that was that one of our number one issues, which has been a significant concern of the move to a 15-hour minimum wage, while we have a position, paraprofessional, that doesn't even pay $15 an hour. And I'm competing with potentially a small fast food restaurant and trying to find people that want to work and could potentially be working with students that are scratching them, kicking them, spitting on them, need to be changed. Is all things that we're trying to address. We left all of that off the table, and both sides came to the table and said, can we come to an agreement of salary that would be something that could be settled for the year and then continue negotiations going forward on all of the other language. So the only thing on the table at this point is salary.
Okay. You brought up a point of, we do certain things at the annual town meeting, and then we do sometimes what I guess I'd call catch up at the fall town meeting. So assuming there was money to be had, and you've cut out $1.6 million out of what would have been your request pre-COVID, where would you look to get back any of those things?
I would look at anything that's a benefit to the taxpayers, specifically the taxpayers that are paying fees, which is my families. I believe everything to do with transportation and athletic fees. Let's say we have a normal year and we're back and the kids are playing sports and taking the bus. I mean, right now we're being asked, Bill, to put one kid every other seat. That's 12 kids per seat. I can't even provide required transportation K to 6, never mind the alternative pay and ride K to 12 or 1 to 12 for more than the mileage. So I would say anything that we can do to as you know, there's a tremendous burden on many families within the town right now in this economy. So any way to keep that $350 fee less, and also any potential for our students to not have to pay $350 every single season with no family. I think those would be benefits of hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars to almost any and all families to make it more reasonable. I wouldn't say they'd be zeroed out, but I would say that they should be made more reasonable. I think it'll be more and more difficult this year if we have sport, if we are open in the traditional way. That would be a priority. I would not be looking at this time to add back what I would call new positions, because I'm really concerned about FY22. I'd be willing to tell the school committee that I don't want to hire somebody for a year and a year later, see you later. That to me is not going to get us any benefit, except those areas that are mandated areas, i.e. special education, ELL, which this budget has in it as part of the $748,000. And our biggest issue, the last one, would be any cost for EPPs that could be coming out of local instead of Fed instead of state, or any items around special education, which is one of our biggest concerns right now, is those students whose delivery of services we will be paying catch up with potentially. In some cases, if not in many cases. And what is the cost? And I prefer to deliver the service and cut somebody necessarily a financial agreement, because the service delivery to me is the most important part, and remote service delivery has been difficult at best.
Has remote delivery for special ed increased the cost?
I think long-term, the answer is, I'll give you an example. If you're a student who's getting occupational therapy, remote occupational therapy is a whole different way of doing business. And so what we're doing right now with our staff is we're asking them to get some of the quote latest training, because it is considered different. And then there's the question of, for example, let's take the student, and I won't say what grade, but let's say a student who has significant autism and is getting a lot of speech, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. The idea of the potential that a family member is now standing with you on a screen trying to, if you will, be provided the service is very difficult. And as somebody, and I'll give you a perfect example, I was very lucky this year because my goal this year was to go spend some time in a preschool. So I put on my non-suit and went into preschool for half a day. The amount of physical activity that takes place with students who really need that type of education, where they're literally constantly being retaught, if you will, the idea of anything from facial features and eye contact to being redirected by having their hand grabbed and moved in another direction, because that's how they learn. It's significant. It's significant. And I don't necessarily know that you can do it at the same 100 percentile of success remotely.
Yep.
It's hard being the superintendent remotely, and I'll defer to others that are having to do this from home. It's just, it doesn't go well with the job, right? Because the job is always in front of people and with people and all of that. And so just in my own office, we're back into the office regularly as of this week, and it's trying to play catch up with little things that you really can't do from home. And for me, it's really reassigning things because they become a priority. Bill Rotundi would like to see a copy of XYZ. Okay, guess what? I'm going to have to shift what potentially, I'm using that as an example, Bill. And so that may mean that I have to tell Matt, hey, I need to stop doing transportation right now because I want to address this with the FEMA, so that when we go to them, we have an answer for them. Or we have at least what we think the answer is, and maybe they're looking for something else. Yeah, that's hard to do. That people will say, well, you can do that remotely. Well, you can, but that also means you have to reorganize and reauthorize what the priorities are.
Oh, yeah.
So that's been difficult.
So,
Chairman?
I see Amy and I heard someone else. So we'll go with ladies first.
well, thank you. Dr. Bayetta, one thought I had on the transportation piece that may help us get a little closer to where we need to be is just thinking of the neighborhood that I live in, there are 4 families that have siblings that ride the bus together.
Say that again?
That yell to the Yale Middle School, but, like, next year, I'm gonna have a 6th grader, an 8th grader, and both of them
Yeah.
are other families, and because these kids are quarantining each other, I mean, they can ride in the same on the bus.
Yeah, and so that's an example of something that we have just recently talked about 2-3 weeks ago. We talked about that what we may have to do is completely reschedule our schools for the fall, where those groups of kids in neighborhoods are traveling together, because you can pick up 15 to 18 of them because they've been in the area. Now, the rule right now is not your neighbor, it's your household. So we need to have that interpreted by somebody above us on what that means. I don't know how any community is going to provide this type of transportation as an example. I mean, right off the bat, the first thing we're gonna have to look at is that pay and ride would have to be eliminated, because we have a mandate for one group of kids and we have a service for another group of kids. Well, Norton, with all due respect, and even the community I live in, people work. People go to work. At least one of the parents, if it's a two-family home, is probably working full-time, if not both parents. So where are these kids going to be? I mean, that's one of my biggest headaches, depending on what comes down the line. You know, where are these children going to be? I guess you can look the other way on a 7th or 8th grader, but I don't think you can look the other way on leaving a 4th grader at home all day by themselves. I don't even think that's appropriate, in my opinion, as a parent. So consolidations of the transportation, looking at areas, we're probably not going to make some parents happy, because we could have a 2nd grader with a 4th grader with a 9th grader with a 12th grader on the same bus, because they're coming out of the same area of town. Or we could be doing it where we're not providing certain transportation. Or one of the big ideas that they're talking about is 50% of the class. So 50% of the 5th grade goes to school this week. The other 50% of 5th graders go to school next week. How does that happen in a home? How do you, because...
You let me know, because I'm eagerly awaiting the answer.
The other, so that you know, Amy, too, the other thing that we're looking at is this an all or nothing approach in the fall, or do we provide options for families? And I don't know that answer yet. It's too early. I hate to say it that way. But I already have phone calls from parents who say, if my child is required to wear a mask, they're not going to your school system. Then I have another email from the same grade level. If a student is in a class and somebody isn't wearing a mask, they're not coming to school. And I have another parent that says, if there isn't a vaccine, my child isn't coming to school. Those all potentially require options from us. Either they can be homeschooled or we can provide something online. We are working right now with a company that's very well established nationally on providing online education, not remote education, but truly an online like we would take as a course.
Walter, was that you before?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Bayetta, maybe the answer was in there, but I assume our responsibilities to the special needs students is still in force. And we have to deliver that, but I am interested in the financial side of that. Is there an increased cost or a reduced cost, or no effect at all based on what's going on now?
It's a great question, Walter, and thank you for asking that. So our biggest issue that we see in special education is the idea of what's called compensatory services, which is when a school system can't deliver a certain service, we have a financial requirement to figure it out. Examples that I've seen before, including in Norton, has been that a service was paid out. In other words, somebody got a check through the town for services not being delivered. And then they went out and got the services from a third party, or we ourselves have provided those services as part of being the party that didn't provide it before. So there's a significant potential for financial issues in special education. One of the biggest positives has been that our families have been very flexible, very understanding, and I thank them for it, that this is a pandemic and not the Norton Public Schools can't afford something or doesn't want to do something. It's been a tragic situation for all children. As all of you know, I have a daughter in the Norton school system. I think we've done a good job. I think we can do a better job. But education today is not what you and I, Walter, went to school with. You know, it's a whole different show. Our college kids are all complaining about having to come home. I don't know any of you who have college kids, but they're all complaining about, you know, we're paying this much for being at home. I'm not getting college experience. So when you look at all of those different populations of students and you concentrate just on special education, our biggest concern becomes this might be something we can get through, but what does it really look like in the fall in terms of services? The other part, to go to your question, is not only services we haven't provided because of ABC, or we've attempted to provide something, but it's not perfect. And that is, who are the new children, the new students who are going to need more service delivery, because this traumatic event has caused more social, emotional, mental health issues with students. And I can give you story after story of students who do not normally seek counseling, do not normally seek support in a classroom, are at the top of their class in our high school or even our middle school, and they have completely shut down. They cannot stand this new norm because they were leaders, they were involved, they were part of the, if you will, the day-to-day events that take place in school, and now they're struggling with literally, in many cases, being shut-ins. And then on the other side of it, and I'll finish here, the amount of students that we have that are now working part-time is significant. The number of students that we now have taking care of their younger siblings is significant. Because mom and dad are first responders, or one is first responder and one's a teacher, and the older sibling is being asked to take care of younger kids. So this is all encompassing. But when you go to special education specifically, I would say, Walter, that we will see some issues we have to discuss.
So I guess, are you saying then you don't have a feel for the impact at this point, financially?
No, what we budgeted for is, in our budget, there's a new SPED teacher at the middle school, which was in the original budget proposal. I did not withdraw that. And the SPED teacher at the high school, new teacher, I also did not withdraw that. I did not lay off a single para. We have 55 paras. Their due date of notification was today. I did not lay them off. That doesn't mean I can't lay them off later. It just means that creating that account for support services that I know our kids are going to need, regardless if I'm in a hybrid and maybe I need less of folks because maybe I'm consolidating part-time into full-time or more full-time than part-time. But at this point, I don't have a number for you. One of the things that's been somewhat positive or negative, depending on how you take it, is we've tried to do a service delivery model with our students that is very individually based. So we think that approach has worked, and through the work of totally overworked special education support staff, the classroom teachers in special education or those specialists, they're running around with their head cut off trying to find ways to meet the needs of students. I've actually gone into classrooms in Zoom or Google Hangouts. It's quite interesting, to see kids' behavior. I've seen breakfast being served during a class, and I've heard, kids not being happy about class. So we just don't know right now.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Wow.
Bill, if I may,
Yeah.
if I could, can we step aside for a second and talk about the 1/12 budget? Because I know that's something that's come up on FinCom discussions, and I know the Board of Selectmen has had a number of discussions, and I'm not suggesting, and I don't want to overstep my responsibility, but I would really want people to consider that a 1/12 budget is not the way to go for July 1st. Simply because I think we'll be working on 1/12 budgets well into August, September, if not October. Simply because of the state's trying to figure it out. I mean, last night we saw unfortunate riots in the street that just did not save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts any money. Unfortunately, that extremists have gotten involved, but at least that's my view. but that costs money. You know, when you're bringing cruisers and flipping them over and everything else, it's not going to mean more money back to anywhere. But I also know that on the town side, for years, they haven't had the number of people they should have in a normal, quote, delivery of service. It's gotten better over the years, but I just don't know how you close out your year, look at free cash, establish a budget on a month-to-month basis, unless you really have to. And as somebody who's had to work through one of those budgets once before, it's not a lot of fun because everybody above you is second guessing everything, especially the state Department of Revenue. There's a lot of questions that go into play. So that's just my 2 cents, considering that we're the biggest budget.
Well, I think I can speak to everybody on FinCom, that, you know, our intent is to get to a budget. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. There's a lot of guesswork this year, more so than any other year.
Right.
And I guess from my vantage point, it's, you know, we can get to a budget today and we can all agree upon it with the stipulation that, you know, if the state comes back and doesn't fund some of their support mechanisms as we thought they would,
Right.
that, you know, everybody should know that there may be further cuts in the future. We don't know, and we're not gonna know. So, I mean, I think I said it last week at the FinCom meeting that, you know, normally we do the annual town meeting and everybody, you know, takes some cutbacks to make it balanced, and then, but with the unwritten understanding that come October, they're gonna get some percentage of that back. And that may not happen this year. And so everybody should be thinking, you know, this is a budget I'm putting out and I gotta live with it. So,
Well, we're going to cut, like I said, less than 5 positions at this time, but I also understand that as has been published a number of times, Chapter 70, both in, for example, Taunton, Attleboro, Seekonk, here in Norton, we're basically saying, based on the best information we have, there's no cuts to Chapter 70. But they could cut 10%. Well, that's $1.2 million. That's devastating financially. You know, and I know that so before we cry foul, let's wait if it actually happens, because if we cry foul and it doesn't happen, then everybody thinks you're lying. And so I've decided to go the opposite way. Let's move with the best that we can. And if we get really unlucky the remainder of the year, then, you know, early retirement incentive sounds good to me. If you got an idea for what, Bill, or members of the committee.
well, does anybody else have any further questions on the school budget proposal? And Mike, I don't know if we want to, you know, vote that now, or whether we want to segue into what had a bazillion questions, the whole food program, or what we're doing with that aspect. Mike?
All right, sorry about that. They're both separate, so whatever you prefer.
Okay, I guess I'd vote for the budget, or, you know, entertain a motion for the budget and then move on to the next topic. So anybody on FinCom who wants to propose something?
Mr. Chairman,
Is that Tom?
Mr. Chair, yeah, Unless you want to sit here in dead silence, somebody has to say something. Like it or not. I'll move the numbers that are in the sheet we have, okay? I know it's, well, we've heard everything about how bad it is, and we know it's bad. But in any case, can I move the whole number, or I have to move it separately, Mike?
You can move it as one number if you want.
Yeah, because we give it as one number, so.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move for school department 330,706,589.
Second.
I have a motion from Tom and a second from Amy. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Go for the vote. Aaron?
Aye.
Amy?
Yes.
Rick? Yes. Thank you. Tom?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you.
Thank you to the committee very much, appreciate it, and allows for me to really start to punch the final numbers and do what I need to do next, which is not my favorite part of my job, but part of the responsibility I have with the staff.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, Mike? Do we want to, I guess, Dr. Bayetta, do we want to move into the whole food program question?
Yeah, that, you have Joe go right into that.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you, Mike, thanks. To the members of the committee, I believe you received some detail from Matt Wells, my school business administrator. I believe Matt's also on the call. Matt, feel free to jump in. You probably know that the school committee, myself, the team feels very strongly about what we've been doing. We think we've addressed the financial concerns that are before you in some detail of what I would call projected costs, which ends with a local portion at this time of 29,019. We did have some further information from the feds as it pertains to these funds that I'd like Matt to discuss with you. Matt, you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
So I'll defer to Matt to give the board some more specifics. And if there's a question that he didn't hit the way you wanted to, or it's still vague or is missing something, then this would be the opportune time for us to try to fulfill that need.
Thank you.
So I was able to speak with MEMA on Friday, late morning. They finally got the approval from FEMA to extend the program another 30 days. So we will be seeing 75% reimbursement for the next 30 days on the program for the adult meals. So that was good news to hear from them. We were kind of expecting it last Tuesday. Didn't happen last Tuesday. I'm not sure why they delayed, but it was nice to hear that, and we're able to feed folks now, which is great.
So, if Bill, if I may, or Mr. Chairman, if I may, through you and the members, a couple of different things. We sat down both with the Housing Authority, the Senior Center pretty early on about where food was coming off from, where it wasn't coming from. We interpreted at the local level that we were at minimum at a 75%. that the remaining 25% could actually also go to the CARES Act, and or that it could be something that's looked upon at a fall town meeting based upon what I guess folks would call throwbacks, or money that's coming back at the end of the year from whatever source that's coming through, or free cash. But I think the issue that came into play based on the questions that I saw or viewed continued to be maybe part of the concern, for lack of a better phrase. When we started feeding folks, just before we started feeding folks, what I was being told, and I'll defer to those that have more authority than I do, the residents of the town of Norton were going out of town to get food. Because the first part is, first of all, we don't have a traditional, if you will, city-like food pantry and services. Beth Rotsky over at the senior center has, in my opinion, has been a godsend for this program in what she's tried to do in supporting us and us her with the direct with senior citizens. But we also saw, as you know, from some of the issues that I laid out before publicly, a significant rise in the number of requests of food stamps that was coming from young families that reside in the town. Today alone, to let you know, I'm just looking at my phone because I get the update every day. But today alone, we had, of course, I probably deleted it. I get it right here. We had 435 breakfasts and lunches, of which 226 went to seniors and residents. That's a pretty significant number. And then there's another number we track, which is called out of district. And what out of district means, they are children not yet registered in the Norton Public School System per se, or are students who attend another school but are residents of Norton Public Schools, of the town of Norton. And we've been averaging anywhere between low 30s to high 40s for that number on a regular basis. And so, you know, we see this as funding that's going to be finalized to the federal government in terms of all the available funds, and not something that's going to be directly proportional. I will also tell you that I'm going to be receiving from a big business in town a $5,000 check just for the food services response to COVID. So if the bill was $25,000, we'd probably be looking at a bill that's $20,000, because we've been getting, actually, I don't know, Matt, if you have a number yet, but I know we've been getting a check here, a check there, from people just wanting to support as their way of doing it. The school committee feels, and I'll speak for them because it came up at the meeting the other day, they feel very strongly that the town citizens need to be supported as long as we can, which for us really takes us to the end of the school year, or in this particular case, the drop dead date will be the 30th of June. And then we go into summer programming, which we may have a requirement to continue to feed if we're under a state of emergency, children only. But I guess one of the questions that I have is, if you're feeding people during the pandemic, we did not check IDs. That's a question that's come up. But I've been at our food services distribution center every single week, usually on a Tuesday. And Matt and Wade Lozada have been there every day besides the people that work it. And I hate to say it this way, but it's predominantly senior citizens that we're seeing. There's no doubt that they're senior citizens, and they're in need of this food, and we were able to move into this quickly without having to worry about where the food was coming from. It was never a problem. It is not a meal that is going to be sustainable forever. I mean, you can only have so many ham sandwiches, but it does give people a breakfast on a long-term, regular basis.
Mr. Chairman?
Rick?
Yeah, just a question regarding, is Chartwell's, is that contract, I know Matt answered it, that's, it's I think it was a 3-year contract, but do you have to extend that contract beyond June 15th if the scope of work changes?
No, the contract, contract goes until June 30th of 2021, so next year. And this is just an extension of services into the summertime. It just carries forward into those contract times. Same as if we had to serve, during April vacations or Christmas vacations, anything, they would still be, they are our contracted service provider.
One of the reasons why we always use June 30th is because we actually never know when the school year is going to end based on the 180 days of required school. So this year it's the 15th. It could be the 30th. It could be the 27th. It could be the 24th. We've had years that it's been the 12th. So the contract basically goes to the end of June.
So no matter if school is not in session, it's still honored contract.
It's honored, yeah, and in this particular case, I think what we're trying to decide is we continue to be under a federal state of emergency where the food services to students actually may be required to go past July 1st. So we could actually be told that starting July 1st, students only at that point, we would still continue to be able to provide. The problem that happens in a community like us, which is different from a city, is that you start to see those numbers in the summertime go lower. I've worked in a community where you see the continuation of 150 meals every day for kids. In our community, I would project that would go out lower. There is one area of town where a third party provides food in the summertime, right in Norton, through a program. That's not our program. A lot of people think it is. It's actually not our program.
Mr. Chairman?
Walter?
Yeah, I have another question on the food program. Is the contractor providing all the personnel services, food preparation and distribution, or do you have other sources of labor as well?
No, this is just being supported by Chartwell for food ordering and preparation and service.
Thank you.
And Walter, to your question too, so when Champions became a privatized company, once our people were let go, if you remember a few years ago, it was very controversial, it was a difficult decision. The first thing that happened is that all of those employees that worked for us were given the opportunity to go work for Chartwells. Once 50% of those former employees became active employees with Chartwells, they then had the right to reunionize, which they did. So they are a working union for a private company. That's what happens with most of Chartwells. And then they negotiate their labor, their hours, and all of that like they did if they were working for me. And we're the third party source because now long term we have no retirement. We don't have to worry about the long-term sick or workers' comp or paying in the summer and all that stuff. So these people that have been working for us has been that Chartwell's named for us that I agreed would be a good fit 2 years ago now. And the employees, every single one of those employees that's in there was already working for us.
Anybody else?
And we're happy to provide you, as soon as we have some better numbers instead of projected, we'll share all of those numbers with you so that you have it. You can see how much the positive, the negative is. I think we have a good plan. It's worked. I will tell you there are local school systems that are doing it. They're just doing it slightly different. Some of them are delivering food on Fridays for the week. Some are delivering twice a week. And to be quite honest, in my request for information and Matt's request, it's about feeding those that are hungry. For example, we have fed homeless veterans in the town. We have fed homeless people in the town, not just veterans. We have fed homeless children in the town of Norton. And I specifically speak to a family that I know we have. So it hasn't been easy. It's never the easiest decision to make because I know that at the end of the day, I have a responsibility for this committee and then to you folks for a balanced budget and for rationale. But I also think we have to be careful to think that the people that we're serving are people who don't need the food and are out for a Sunday walk and decide that going to the back of the high school to pick up a sandwich is what they should be doing. And I'm not suggesting that that doesn't happen. I think I publicly have noted that I'll probably see them 6 feet under when the time comes because they're taking advantage of something. And that happens in every scenario and every good thing that we do in society. But I also know that, when we look at the total cost of running this program and the number of people that we've been feeding, I think that the cost has been more than reasonable.
Is the high school the only distribution location, or are there other schools?
No, the high school is the only one. We purposely did that because, to be quite honest, we've been very lucky in terms of our staff there not getting sick and really trying to follow protocols and procedures. And we were concerned about opening another other site. So we had an emergency site ready to go. It would have been the Yell Elementary School, but we wanted to keep that as an emergency site in case we had to close down the run that we had. And we did the back of the school because it just became, that's where the cafeteria and kitchen opening is. I found it at first I didn't like it being in the back of the school. I think that sends kind of an odd message as well. But we thought it was just a nice flow for people to come in and out and do what they need to do. And then we utilized probably 4 different ways of doing it as the COVID situation was going up and down, because it was getting really nasty. We became only in your trunk. You couldn't get out of your car, things like that. We changed the process.
Well, thank you for doing it, because it is a needed service at this time.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. I know it's not hard because people are, we have to as a community look at the bottom number. But I think when you see the number of meals that have been provided, again, it's not perfect, and how much it's actually cost and what the minimal, if any, cost could be to the local town. I think that people would say that we've tried to be part of the team. We're not looking for anything, but I don't think there's anything more meaningful than feeding people in need, regardless of their age.
Yeah. Anybody else on this topic? Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for voting my budget. And as I always say at every meeting, Tom, you looked great, except this time I only saw your name, I didn't see your face.
And that's a good thing, Joe.
I hope you're doing well. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Matt.
Thanks so much.
All right, Mike, what's up next?
Okay, next is the police department budget. And I know the police chief presented to you earlier in the year. And obviously, he's everything he presented to you, he definitely needs. It's just unfortunate, again, that we don't have the funds to fully fund the request. And so I'm recommending under personnel services, $3,592,120.
Hold on a second. What budget number is he?
Police is 210. I can share the screen so you can see that.
Well, I have you on my phone, so I had to pull it up, but I'm all set now.
Okay. Let me get to it. So the recommendation for the police budget would be reducing the overtime amount by $55,000. And there's a couple small expense reductions under uniform clothing allowance, $1,800, and under office supplies, $1,000. And as the superintendent had said previously, you know, we do go to the meeting in October and we hope to add. Obviously, this year, there's no guarantee. So for the total police department budget, I'm recommending the $3,804,970.
So, again, going back to, you know, spring meeting, fall meeting. So fall meeting, you know, it's just all bad news across the board and there's no money. How do you deal with that overtime number then?
Well, all depends, you know, it's hard to talk about because we obviously don't know what's going to happen. But if
Right.
you go to a situation and you find you don't have money available, you either don't increase that overtime and it's obviously a cut in services, or you have options of using more stabilization. You know, that's up to what the situation is at that time and what you decide to do and what town meeting decides to do.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman,
Chief,
How are you?
good, how are you?
Good evening, everybody. So I just wanted to mention a couple quick things. So I estimate that I'm going to be turning back somewhere between in the area of $40,000, might be a little more this year. And that's primarily because of what's happened with the pandemic. In particular, the courts have been closed, so we haven't had trials or court cases where people would go where overtime would be expended. We also had all our training cease, with the exception of a little training we're doing with firearms and use of force right now. So all our in-service training is now being done remotely online. So officers aren't going to the academy to receive their in-service training. So we're not backfilling shifts. So I estimate, like I said, to be turning back up somewhere in the area of over $40,000. You know, to answer your question, I think, you know, in the past, we've always thought that we're going to get money back in the fall, and we have. This year, I'm really not that optimistic, to be honest with you. There's a few things that I plan to do immediately, really that will have very minimal impact on the police service in particular. Some people might notice it, but overall, I hope not. One is I expect a detective to retire in the end of June. We won't be backfilling his position, so we'll be keeping a person in patrol. You know, what that does, where the people might feel the effects is that they do assist with firearms licensing and do problem-oriented policing referrals. So we might not do some referrals, and we might get a backlog of firearms licensing appointments. So that's kind of one area. The other area is the administrative lieutenant will be placed back into the patrol rotation. That's kind of like putting the assistant principal or the assistant superintendent back in the classroom. But I think it's probably going to be needed. So I want to do that effective July 1st. And also, we're going to put a hiring freeze on new special police officers. There is a cost that goes to hiring special police officers, and we will eliminate that cost. Certainly, if things get worse, we'll have to look at other avenues. Certainly, the training will be an area where we'll probably continue doing that online. You know, we might need to take a look at community policing activities and backfilling things like the honor guard and parade details. And, you know, if it's really bad, we'll have to look at the school resource officer position and what we do with those two. But, you know, that would certainly be worst case, more cuts type of deal.
Do we have anybody in the academy at the moment?
We actually have two people in the academy. One will be out at the beginning of July, and another person will be out. Actually, just started today. Her academy was postponed for 2 months. She was supposed to go back in April, but due to the virus, the academy's closed. So she just actually started today, and she won't get out till October. So we're actually going to be down a body. We're expecting a second retirement in July, and so we'll be down a body for several months.
Okay. Any questions from FinCom members?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Aaron?
Hi. Hey, Chief.
Hey, Mr. Smith?
We have a cadet in the academy right now coming out in July.
Yeah.
Does this plan count on them being able to make their transition?
Yes, so this is a, we've always talked about the special police being our farm club. She's been a member of the special police for a year. Even though the academy closed for a period of time, she actually came in here to do some training with us, social distancing and things, but it was very beneficial to do that, just like once or so, twice a week. So she's up to everything that we need her to be. When she graduates the academy July 10th, I have no doubt that she'll hit the road running.
And there was a second?
So the second was not a special police officer with us, was a reserve officer in Mansfield. She has some police experience. It will take a little bit longer. I expect her to get out, I think, in October, but it will take a little bit longer before she gets on the road. So our shifts, one of the shifts at least, will be running a little light, and that's one of the reasons that I'm making the adjustments July 1st.
And my other question would be that these court cases that are not happening right now and that are an area that where you're retaining some money and providing turnbacks, I'm assuming those aren't going to go away. Or is this something that's just accruing and is going to come crashing down and require a whole bunch of court time, at some point?
I think typically it would if we were incurring court cases through this whole pandemic, which we have a few, but not many. Certainly, there haven't been as many as there would be if everything was status quo. So I'm not expecting, right now we're getting the court cases, we're getting new dates for say August. There might be a little rush at some point in time, but I don't think it's going to be a huge deal.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I don't hear anybody else. Chief, I'm hoping that, the past couple of days in the big city hasn't found its way down to Norton, but if it has, best of luck.
Thank you. We're keeping a close eye on it. There is a lot of conversation about, things locally, and we actually have an officer in Boston tonight to assist Boston. He's a member of a regional team. We weren't in there last night, but he is in there tonight.
Best of luck to him and to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I can entertain a motion if the committee so desires. Tom?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Can I do it all? Need to do it twice.
If you
Okay.
encompass all, like.
It has to be salaries, personnel, and expense.
Okay, well, why don't I do both of them? It's not too complicated. I think I can handle it still before 9 o'clock. On personal services, 510 for the Department 210, 3,592,120.
Second.
Okay, here a motion, and was that Amy for the second?
Right.
Okay, for account 210, personnel services 510, in the amount of $3,592,120. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Aaron?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Rick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes,
Peter? Yes. Mike,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Go ahead, Tom.
Under expenses, 570, Department 210, 212,850.
Second.
And motion and a second for account 210 police, charges and expenditures in the amount of 212,850. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Aaron,
Aye.
Amy,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Walter,
Aye.
and I'm a yes, so grand total for account 210 police is 3,804,970. All right, Mike, next.
Next fire. When you do the next one, I'm sorry, you can make, whoever's making the motion can make up the motion for personnel services with the dollar amount, charges and expenditure, the dollar amount, and the total budget amount, and then you can just vote that whole recommendation rather than do it twice.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's see. So let me go to fire.
Which is 220,
Fire is 220.
right?
And my recommendation for fire 220 is under personnel services, $3,974,917, and under charges and expenditures, $200,840, or a total budget of $4,175,757. And this, to get to this budget, once again, is a cut in overtime of 70,000. Under repair maintenance of vehicles, a cut of $1,000. Under telephone communications, reduction of $500. Under other educational supplies, a reduction of $500. Under training, a reduction of $500. And under, see what the last one is.
I think it was seminar conferences.
Seminars and conferences, 500, right? And training, 1,000.
Okay, and you know, the same thing, you know, with cutting overtime, which may not, you know, could come back in the fall, may not come back in the fall. That's not going to be an issue.
So it's the same thing. I believe the chief is on. Much like the police chief said and the superintendent said, obviously, you hope this money can come back, but you know it might. So you have to be cautious between now and October on what you do spend on overtime, just so you can make sure you get through the whole year if it doesn't come back. Chief?
Yeah, that's correct. So we've obviously been trying to staff to 8. So this cut in overtime will result in us not being able to fill about 117 shifts or so. So we obviously understand that nothing's guaranteed in the fall. So you know, we'll start the year planning like we're not going to get it back. Hopefully, you know, we can. If we can, we'll be preparing for it.
Okay. Taking $1,000 out of the repair budget, what?
I don't know if we have enough time to talk about the repair budget. All kidding aside, it's been a really bad year for our fire apparatus, honestly. So normally last year we had $33,000 in that line. And anything that could break is almost broken this year. We more than double that this year, honestly. I mean, major things like the pistons that operate the aerial. We've had to replace a transmission for over $9,000. Both of our other engines have had engine problems. Our pumpers have had engine problems. So at some point, I'll provide y'all with the spreadsheet that outlines all of that. And what I'm hoping to do as the year gets closer to an end is request a year-end transfer. We will have a little bit of surplus in salaries that hopefully we can distribute to that. So it's similar to Chief Clark. I'm looking at probably about a similar amount of money to turn back out of salaries at the end of the year. And ours is actually due to some retirements and resignations that we've had this past year. So.
Okay.
So hopefully
Anybody
we
else?
won't need all that money. Hopefully we won't need all that money in the repair and maintain. Hopefully we took care of all the stuff already, but we'll see what happens. We also have a new engine coming in, so we're very thankful and lucky for that. So hopefully that'll ease that burden a little bit as well.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Tom?
Mr. Chairman, so Department 220 Personal Services, $3,974,917. For charges and expenses, $570, $200,000, $840. Total budget, $4,175,757.
Got a motion and a second. Personnel services, $3,974,917. Charges and expenditures, $200,840 for a grand total of $4,175,757. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Aaron?
Aye.
Amy?
Yeah.
Rick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Peter?
Aye.
Mike?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay. Next one, Mike.
Thank you. Next
Thank
is,
you, Pete.
next is communications, and I just wanted to give you this is a comparison. I know you had asked with communications, hopefully by October at the latest, we're moved over to SEMRAC. And this is a comparison to show you what the savings are by going to SEMRAC. So currently right now in our dispatch, or projected, if we stayed as a full-time dispatch center, salaries and wages, you'd be looking at $562,000. Part-time wages, $20,000. Additional gross overtime, $85,000. Longevity pay, $3,850. And the health insurance is $97,488. So, and then expenses, repair maintenance of office equipment, $15,000. Uniform clothing allowance, $5,250. Office supplies, $1,000. Seminars and conferences, $2,000. Dues and membership, $1,500. And training, $2,500, for expenses of $27,250. So a Norton Dispatch Center total cost of expenses and salaries would be $795,588. The SEMRAC assessment is $508,781.65. So it's a savings savings of $286,806.35 with SEMREC. And I know that the chiefs are probably still on and could emphasize to you that it's not just looking to save money, it's also an upgrade as far as technology that we would have trouble ever affording. Chiefs, you want to talk on that?
Sure. So, yeah, a couple things. We've been talking about this for a while. I know it's come before you a few times. The advancement of the radio consoles that we're going to get, the ability to pinpoint wireless 911 calls within 3 meters, receive medical alert calls. I know one thing I didn't realize that was really amazing that they went over a few months ago was, take something like Gillette Stadium. They have that broken down so that they can tell you exactly where a 911 call comes from. It would be the same thing if we have the TPC or Wheaton College or things like that. I think the savings that's shown here is only part of it. We're going to go into some capital expenses that we're going to need, including repeaters and things like that are big money issues. So, the advanced mapping that they have, the ability to share information, which we don't do now with the other 3 communities, that would be at our fingertips. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Chief Clark pretty much hit all the highlights for sure there. So good job, Chief. But certainly going to allow us to be able to utilize the state-of-the-art system. The technology is going to integrate with all the communities in there, so we're going to be able to communicate through mutual aid calls so much easier. It'll be one central point of dispatch for us. Certainly the locating the 911 calls is a huge asset. We'll have consistency between all 4 towns that we work closely with on a regular basis. And like Chief Clark alluded to, also there'll be a lot of capital items, and they'll have better success with grants, regional basis like that as well. So I know for us, we're looking for a new station alerting software and hopefully portable radios before too long. So one other thing that they're going to be offering, which can be a huge help, especially when we have a huge fire like we did a few weeks ago, is anything over a second alarm fire, they're going to actually be sending a representative on scene to assist with any communications issues, and that sort of thing. So that they actually did come to that fire and they were a help out there, even on that day. So that's all I have.
One thing that wasn't really mentioned too is that this is going to be a big facility. Our station here, we've really, a lot of your members, your finance committee members have been here. We're really at maximum capacity. It's a 20-year-old station. We've hit our max. There's really no room for growth with our communication center either. There's a lot of room for growth at this new building at High Rock, and quite frankly, there's other towns that are interested in joining, and our assessment, quite frankly, could go down because of that.
Okay.
Chairman?
Tom?
Bill? Yeah.
Yep.
On the communications personal services line item, does that 147,330 disappear?
On the proposed budget?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, on your recommended budget, Mike, that 147,330, does that disappear now?
That'll be for 3 months. July, August,
then-
and September.
So then it's gone.
Yes.
Okay, so then the 508,782 will be the number.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mike,
Yep.
this is Pete. So this number doesn't include, there were a couple other things, other budget items that showed, with there like some data stuff that was involved that kind of we still have to pay for, or it was in this budget, but it's going to be somewhere else now. Is that included in this, or just keep that piece out of here?
That'll be when we do the IT budget later on. It'll be in that data processing.
So data processing wasn't in this, where you put it up here.
No. So some of the things that you see in here that were under communications, if you look back at the previous years on your spreadsheets, like telephone communications, police and fire software, those types of things we'll still have, and you'll see that when we do that budget.
Okay, they normally would have been that budget. They would normally have been in this total, but you took it out of that so that we wouldn't.
Right. Yeah, these are just the items that comparison. And so for the communications 290 under personnel services, the recommendation is $147,330. And under 510, 560, excuse me, assessment, $508,782.
I guess I should open my mouth with a dead silence. Mr. Chairman, I would like to recommend for Department 290 Personal Services, $147,330. Under Assessment 560, $508,782. A total budget $656,112.
Second.
Did we lose Bill?
Do we lose our chairman?
I don't think anywhere on here.
Yeah.
Briefly dramatic pause for Bill, even for Bill.
Come back, Bill, come back.
I'm sure he's feverishly dialing right now.
All right, when Bill gets back on, everyone just move your mouth like you're talking, but don't actually make any sound. We'll see how long it takes him to.
And Sean, I apologize, we skipped over to your parts of your budgets. We're gonna have to go back to those.
Okay. The EMS, right?
Yes, yep, and emergency management.
Waiting for Bill right?
We are. Oh, here he comes.
People who watch this video are going to be visited by this segment. However,
I don't know if that was any clearer for anybody else, Amy, but that was, your microphone is extremely muffled. I didn't get any of that.
Sound like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Same with me, yes. Does our fearless leader even know that we're not hearing him or seeing him at this point?
There's no video and he's muted.
I think he's trying his iPhone now. I see William's iPhone. Yeah.
What's the rules if he can't come back? Does someone take over?
I'm gonna have to take over.
Vice
You
Chair.
have to, I think you need a battlefield commission now.
Vice chair isn't here today.
Prior chair, former chair.
That'd be Rick.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone in a chair?
That would be weird.
All right, let me,
Right on cue.
Mike, you wanna pop that back up, please?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we made the motion and, the second. So we'll take a vote. I'll just go from left to right as I can see it. Paula,
Yes.
Aaron,
Aye?
and Amy. Mike,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
and, Tom,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
and Peter.
Yes.
Okay, myself is a yes as well. It's unanimous.
Okay. If we could
All right,
go,
can you guys hear me now?
yep,
You've been demoted. Rick took over.
My phone overheated and shut down.
so Bill,
Yeah.
we voted, or your committee voted on, the communications budget. And, now we have to go back, to a couple of, Sean's budgets.
Okay.
So under emergency medical services, my recommendation is $143,900.
What number is that one?
I'm sorry, 230.
Bill looks frozen again.
All right. That's,
So Department 230 emergency medical. What are we doing on this one again?
$143,900.
Mike, what makes up the big increase?
Chief? Yep, the big increase there is the ambulance billing. As you may know, the ambulance, billing contract had to go out. The percentage has gone up a little bit. And also, it's actually kind of good news because we're collecting a considerable amount more. We're projecting to collect at least $150,000 more this year than we did last year.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And Tom, that was a $9,000 increase.
Yeah, chief, so that's like 20%. Do you expect it to go 20% next year, or is that more like a 2 or 3 year contract?
It's a three-year contract where the rate is going to be 4%. And like I said, we project in what we're going to collect by 4%, and that's how we came out with that number. I don't have the actual worksheet in front of me, but I think we're looking at like 1.5, somewhere around that area for an estimate.
Any further questions? Mr. Chairman? For emergency medical services department, 3570, $143,900.
Second. Got a motion and a second for account 230 emergency medical in the amount of $143,900. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Aaron?
Aye.
Amy? Rick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think next on your agenda is library.
Yeah, Mike, emergency planning?
Up. Yep, sorry.
They're important.
Well, no, it's an easy one.
So let me find that. Under emergency planning, $7,400. Probably, these guys have done a great job, helping us out with all kinds of events across the town, and it's a slight increase in their budget.
Okay, any further discussion from anybody on this one?
I'll just say, comment that, they have an excellent, website that really can update you what's going on in the town as far as, just, information on COVID, and, just, other situations regarding, emergency calls or whatever. So they're a wealth of knowledge. If you, all you have to do is just, provide your email and they'll give you updates, a couple of times a week. It's a good site.
Mr. Chairman?
Tom?
I would like to move for Emergency Management Department 240, charges and expenses, $570, $7,400.
Second.
And motion and a second for Department 240, emergency planning, charges and expenditures in the amount of $7,400. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Go to the vote. Aaron?
Aye.
Amy?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Mike, before we leave this whole section of the budget, and I don't want to, truly bring up a can of worms or anything. And I understand that, going to the regional dispatch is a great thing for various reasons. But at the end of the day, we didn't really save 400,000, did we?
I don't think that was that the number?
That was said, a year and a half ago or a year ago when it was proposed. So we didn't actually, between moving some of it to other budgets and whose budgets then increased, we're kind of breaking even. Just dollar-wise, not the intangibles of what this dispatch center can bring, but on a dollar basis, it looks like we're breaking even.
Why would you say we're breaking even?
Because we've increased other budgets that, like Charlene transferred over to a different one and all this kind of stuff, and those budgets increased. This one went down and they increased by 100, 150, and this one went down by like 200. So
Yeah, but that's why I gave you the comparison I gave you. I didn't put any of those numbers in my comparison. All I used, and that's why that other one was 400,000, because they didn't understand some of the items that we had to carry over. But I didn't use those in my comparison. I only used items that actually were not carrying over anywhere, so you could see that it's an actual savings.
Okay, well, then the savings went from the original 400 down to the 200.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, as my phone blew up on me here. But okay. So next.
Next is library.
Which is number
610. And under library, 610, I recommend $501,781.
So we're cutting it back 3,000?
$2,432. It's a 2.5% increase. So their budget increase is $12,238.
And that $2,400 difference isn't going to be detrimental to the library, I'm going to assume?
I know that Lee is on. I don't think it'll be detrimental. I think they understand the situation we're in and,
Yeah. Hi, this is Lee. No, I don't think it's going to affect us. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Right now, the Mass Board of Library Commissioners has said that our operating hours for this year are covered. So we've been working remotely. We are doing curbside, well, sort of contact-free pickup and drop off at the library we started that today, and we've been doing a lot of virtual stuff. This whole entire time we've been closed, kind of like the schools, kind of had to pivot and do everything remote. We are lucky, even though we had a spending freeze, that our network was able to purchase more ebooks and audiobooks to meet the demand. And the staff has been doing an amazing job on our website. If you haven't seen it, we have everything there. Like, people can still do Fax 24, people can still do from their home. They can access magazines, they can access Ancestry, which is a database which was never able to be accessed from home. We have a Google Voice number. So we've been kind of just moving along at full pace. So I think we'll be okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey Lee,
Hey, Peter.
hey Lee, I can't wait to get back to the library, and I heard that library is a part of phase 2, it'll be, inside to be open with restrictions, correct Lee?
Yep, well, we opened today for, people can drop off items. We started that Friday. People can start returning their items, and people can pick up their holds. It's limited to Norton items only at this point, because there is no delivery in the state. We're still working on that.
That's right, and hopefully you will be open just in time for phase 2, correct?
I sure hope so.
That's right. So I can't wait to go inside the library and read, right?
Yeah, use the computers, yep.
That's right, hopefully it'll be phase 2 will come around June 8th, right?
June 8th, yep. I have some staff waiting till June 8th before they let me know whether they're coming back. They're a little bit nervous about the virus.
And hopefully I can visit all the other libraries in Andover, Taunton, Mansfield, and Foxborough, right Lee?
Yes, you will.
That's right.
So, FinCom members, any other questions, comments? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Tom?
for the library, Department 610, $501,781.
Second,
A motion and a second for Department 610 Library, other charges and expenditures of $501,781. Okay, I said that wrong, $501,781. Any further discussion? Hearing none, go for the vote. Aaron?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Rick?
yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, next one, Mike?
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Next is 155 data processing. And let me share my screen. Is that up? Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
It opens these PDFs and it has to rotate each one.
So under data processing, 25,000 will go to communication equipment for police and communication equipment for fire and police department mobiles and portable radios. And then also as part of that is the Southeastern Regional Police Radio. That's one of the member organizations that we work with
in cooperation in southeastern Mass. And then 12,000 will go to equipment repair and maintenance. RB Allen, that they the service agreement for our box alarms for our fire department, and Metropolitan Telephone. That's a support agreement for all the town hall phones, fire department, police department, library, and DPW. And then 32,000 is for all our software licensing. So the CAD for the fire and police is the first section. Then the data processing, professional services, all our subscriptions we have for our firewall protection, remote monitoring, our on-site technical support, which is $35,360, and the maintenance of the server, our spam filtering, and our annual subscriptions for our Dropbox storage. And you can see the other licenses, our firewall security, our antivirus. Then 4,500 is yearly subscription and maintenance for our town hall website. And the Brave Mobile Alert is $6,000 a year. Zobrio is the accounting software package. Harper's is the payroll package. CrewSense is for $7,800. That's the fire and police department's scheduling and data tracking program. And then policy management system for the police department is $2,000. Lexipol is for the fire department. That's for all their online policies and procedures and all their regulations that they have to follow. The NFPA, $2,000. That's an online subscription to all fire codes, fire prevention training, and technical advice. The next section for Full Circle Technology, that's for all the licenses for our online permitting. Pictometry, that was a item that was approved for imaging for the Assessor's Department. They just recently did their flyover earlier this spring on that, their first flyover. And then Wells Fargo, that's a lease for a large format printer that we have upstairs on the second floor for all conservation, planning, building. Island Tech Services, this is for the fire department. It's internet access for all frontline apparatus. So that's so that the ambulance have internet access so that when they're traveling with the patient to the hospital, they can communicate directly with the hospital with all the vital statistics. Just $50 for printing, telephone communications. So this is the phone bills and the radio circuits and the high-speed internet. So Verizon for the town phones. The T1 line, that is the main, that's a line that is in at the police, comes in directly to the police department, fiber optic. Then Verizon wireless service and Sprint Nextel for police and fire mobile telephones. And then Comcast is our internet service. Office supplies, seminars and conferences, training, Those are a couple things that I've pulled out of this budget. And additional equipment is the final item. So my recommendation was to remove seminars and conferences and dues and memberships. And the total request for communications is $29,155 for personnel services, and under charges and expenditures, $403,534.
Okay, any questions, comments? Okay. Mr. Chairman, Tom? Data processing 155, personal services 510, $29,155. Charges and expenditures 570, $403,534. Total budget $432,689.
Second.
Motion and a second for account 155, data processing. Personnel services 510 in the amount of $29,155. Charges and expenditures 570 in the amount of $403,534 for a grand total of $432,689. Any further discussion? Hearing none, go to the vote. Aaron?
Here we go. Aye.
Amy?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Tom? Yes. Peter?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's unanimous. Okay, Mike, next.
Next is inspection. And there was a question last week on the salaries. I don't know if you had all the information that, so on the salary sheet, if you look down below part-time, there's a inspector added that was not there last year. So that is why you were saying that the salaries are increasing, and it's another $17,000 for this inspector, this part-time inspector. And remember that the part-time inspectors, it's all based on inspections. So if they're not called in because we don't have the inspections, then that money's not going to be spent. But this is the building commissioner's estimate of where he thinks the work is going to be this year and what we're going to need for inspections. And as you know, this department is probably the largest revenue producing, one of the largest revenue producing departments in the town. And, you know, if he doesn't have the inspectors to get out there, with the online permitting, people have been applying that maybe wouldn't have applied before. So it has helped us out. And that's why there's a second plumbing and gas inspector to help out with those inspections. So that's $17,010.
Okay.
Bill?
Amy?
I would just like to ask, in our current financial situation, if we think it's a good idea for the building inspectors to be getting an 11.4% increase this year.
Well, my answer to that would be if we don't have the staff that they need, it's going to affect our revenue in the long run. So it's better to have the staff that's needed. And as I
Right,
said,
but this isn't the additional staff, this is his specific salary.
his salary did not,
It's going from 78,000 to 86,900.
it's going to
That is an 11.4% increase.
his salary is going from 78,000 to 81,120. That's my recommendation.
Okay, well, that's unclear in the paperwork we got. Because I still see 86,900 in two different places, and then 81,120 over to the side, not in the column that says recommended.
Yeah, I think the column that's unlabeled does add up to the 221 on page 221,961 on page 1. A little unclear, but I think it's from 78 to 81. So.
I don't know, I'm looking at the one that was emailed to us from Michelle on Friday for Department 241.
And it
still says 243,311. I just want to make sure we move the right number when we're going to move it.
That's the full department. So the recommendation is under personnel services 221,961, and under charges and expenditures 21,350 for a total expenditure of $243,311.
Okay.
Because Amy, if you're on.
No, I see it. It's the numbers are a little funky on this second page, but it's fine.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman,
Tom?
for inspection department 241, personal services 510, 221,961. On the charges and expenditures, 570, 21,350. A total budget of 243,311.
Second. Have a motion and a second for Department 241 inspection, personnel services 510 in the amount of $221,961. Charges and expenditures 570 in the amount of $21,350 for a grand total of $243,311. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we go to the vote. Aaron?
Aye.
Amy?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes?
Peter?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's unanimous. Okay, next, Mike?
Mike, you're muted.
Thanks, Bonnie. The selectmen will be meeting, looks like this Thursday now, to discuss location of town meeting, outside, inside, and time. And
on your meeting, you're scheduled for Monday, June 8th. Southeastern Regional was gonna present. They have scheduled their graduation for that night. So.
Yep.
Oh, you have. So they were, if you want to hear from them, they were available Wednesday next week if you want to switch the meeting to Wednesday.
I'll leave that to the members as the graduation is Monday. You know, I may not be able to make this meeting. So,
I don't have a problem with Wednesday. That's fine.
Mike, what graduation, Mike?
Southeastern Regional, Peter.
Ooh!
So, and have you gotten any more feedback from them as to why the assessment's going up so much?
All I hear from them when I ask them that is this usual, well, we do have 10 more students, I guess. And the other thing is they always say, well, it's based on the funding that the state requires us to spend, and we're waiting to see if that's going to be adjusted due to the COVID situation. So, but the main thing is they said there's 10 more students.
So, you know, all things revolve around COVID somehow in budget season. So, same thing with them. If somehow their state-supported funding is down, do we get charged an extra whatever? Or is this it? You know, no matter what happens, this is it.
No, their budget can go up or down. I mean, they realize that all the towns are in the same situation and they can't just pass it on. I don't know how they'll make their adjustments, but they're gonna have to do something.
Okay, so once we vote it, if you know, something goes awry at the state level, which impacts them negatively, they have to deal with it. They can't come back to us mid-year saying, hey, we need an extra, you know, X.
They could, I mean, that's a question that you should ask them just to see what they say. They obviously could. I would hope that they would realize that that money may not be available and they wouldn't approve a budget that would do that.
All right. Well, I don't want to give them any ideas either. Rather give it to, you know, no offense to my child who's graduating, but I'd rather give it to, you know, Norton School. Anyway.
And did you have a chance to sign the reserve fund transfer?
No, I'll do that. Sorry about that.
All right. That's all I have.
So
What about Aggie, Mike?
What was that?
What about Aggie?
Oh, okay.
That's a big budget.
Yeah, they didn't, their budget is not bad this year. We'll put that on the next agenda too.
Okay. Okay. So we won't be meeting Monday, we'll meet Wednesday?
Wednesday the 10th.
Okay. And then we need, and then the following Monday is the open meeting, budget meeting, presentation. So it's at the 15th?
Yes.
Yeah. And
Mr. Chairman?
Aaron?
Hey, do we have anything else scheduled other for that? Or are we
When?
the night of our open comments? Do we have other things on the agenda that evening?
I didn't think so.
Would it be easier to just put that at the beginning of a night where we have a meeting? Because typically it's a 30-second pause, and it just seems like, there's a very good chance that we're going to convene everybody to a Zoom meeting for, 30-second hello amongst ourselves. If that's the only purpose of us convening.
There are,
Go ahead, Mike.
on that night, we could have other articles, capital, water and sewer, we're still gonna do that. And, usually you break, you have your budget hearing, then you go back to other things. So we could have articles, I'll check with the planning board on any articles they have, but we will have capital, we will have water and sewer.
And has it been decided yet to what extent this proposed town meeting on the 27th?
It has, and I hope that's decided Thursday night.
Okay, so it's still somewhat wide open that it could be all sorts of things, or I think town council has indicated a way to phrase it, and I don't know if that's supposed to be me or is that the moderator at that point on things that we don't want to discuss.
Yeah, I think she said on some of the zoning articles, because the zoning articles have the 65-day deadline or whatever the town council said. So I think she mentioned terminology to refer them back to the planning board rather than not take them up. So that we'll have that figured out hopefully Thursday night.
Okay. Okay, and is there, for us to do the report, don't we need kind of that final rundown sheet? Maybe it's a cherry sheet, maybe it's some other sheet that indicates where money is coming from, because I know that's somewhat embedded into that report that I think Steve has to work on.
We can get him any information he needs.
So does he have to reach out to
Yes.
you or Michelle?
Yes.
Or, again, I thought when I did it that one year, I just took it off the last, cherry sheet that we were presented. So has there been an update to that?
There's no update to the cherry sheet for this year, no. Still this original.
So it's still showing, I think I've seen two of them though, either a $2,000 surplus or a $981 surplus.
Oh, you look at, so you want the revenue and expenditure sheet?
Yeah.
Yep, it's the one now, it's like $8,000 at the bottom. We'll get that to him.
Can that be resent
Sure.
out? Just so I know we're all looking at the correct one. Otherwise, I guess, we'll talk with you next Wednesday, not Monday.
Right. Good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Have a good. All right. At 8:46, you know, I'll be quite blatantly honest, I did not read any of the minutes. So we can do the minutes that were sent last week, or we cannot. And do it a week from Wednesday.
I'm a big fan of kicking the can on this one. Just being honest, I haven't had a chance to read them either.
Yeah.
All right, then. That's I can live with that answer. Is there any other items that we need to discuss?
Just a quick reminder, I'm leaving in 29 days. So please read the
No, you're
minutes
not.
so I can, finalize that before I leave.
If we don't read them, will you stay?
Good point.
Hey,
We
good
will
try.
read minutes. We will read the minutes, promise, for next Wednesday. So, thank you. So, with 12 minutes to spare before someone's bedtime, Tom?
I get an early dismissal, Mr. Chairman, since we have no further business. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. Here we go again. Have a little fun. Walter?
Actually, before we voted, real quick point, Bill Gouveia is holding a debate for the moderator and select board positions next Wednesday, so I won't be available for that meeting. And that meeting will be taped and made available to the townspeople afterwards. So heads up on that. I do support the motion.
Best of luck next Wednesday then.
Say again?
Best of luck to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Come on, Walter!
Okay, so Walter was a yes. Ronnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Rick? Amy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes?
And I'm a yes. So, thank you, everybody. See, talk to you, in a week from Wednesday on the 10th.
Good night, everybody!
Night.
Good night,
See you,
Tom. Good
Peter.
night, Connie. Good night, Aaron. Good night, Bill. Good night, Tom. Good night, Shane. Good night, everyone.